With Devil May Cry 4 acting as my introduction to the franchise, I was beset by a few bewilderments. Why was Dante, the cooler of the two protags, just repeating Nero's path? I liked the fights and subsequent cutscenes, but come on. I don't want my own sloppy seconds I had while playing as a separate character.
What?
But more than anything else, I went into Devil May Cry under the impression that this guy was the lead. Not this one, not this. And I was only half right. This isn't to say that Nero wasn't an interesting character. He caught my intrigue for a number of reasons. Most strikingly, beyond the obvious connection to Sparda, was how similar he was to both Dante and Virgil. He had his uncle's blatant disrespect for much of anything or anyone. Just watch how he's completely turned off by Sanctus's sermon, blasting his headphones full blast with no regard for others. That is me if I still went to church. Frickin' Mormons. Nero is also equal parts reckless and creative in a fight. But like Virgil, he's very stern and reserved. His relationship with Kyrie, it's obvious from the very beginning they're enthralled with one another, yet he acts cool and detached even from her, despite leaving her a gift. Oh, you charmer. Chip off the old block. That and his similar desire for power. Though, as we learn throughout his and his father's journeys, that desire stems from entirely different sources. But the parallels don't end there. Also, like his other family members, Nero was an orphan, at an even younger age than they were. We have no information on Nero's mother. The only image of her we potentially have is this one instant from DMC4 Special Edition. Apparently, she was an Assassin's Creed character. No wonder Virgil fancied her. But Nero never got the chance to know her, whether she died from complications in childbirth or was simply incapable of taking care of him, and Virgil up and abandoning them both.
What? No! Come back! I said I was ready! No! Hey! This is just like that time with your dad! Shut up!
Whatever the reasons, this left Nero with a colossal void in his life. Dante and Virgil may have lost their mother at a critically young age, but at least they knew her. Dante still has a picture of Eva on his desk. It's one of the few constants in every iteration of the DMC office. For Nero, there's nothing. No memories of keeping him safe, telling him bedtime stories. You don't need me to tell you how missing that essential support can affect a child. You'll notice a trend with Nero throughout Devil May Cry 4 and 5. As rebellious and dismissive as he is towards others, as much as he acts like he doesn't care, the approval and the acknowledgement from those around him is extremely important. We saw a bit of this with Kyrie. Obviously, hiding his Devilbringer when she walks in on him was a reasonable response. Doing so after the fact, with her brother beaten up at your feet, not good optics, Nero. But your heart's in the right place. Then later at the end of 4, when he's concerned she may not even want him given his demonic essence. It's only a few examples, but they play at the insecurities Nero has. But nothing demonstrates this better than his relationship with Dante. Again, DMC4 has a few examples, but they're quite telling. Like after their second fight and Dante has him dead to rights. Nero's enraged after Kyrie was taken captive. His state of mind was unstable going into this fight. Yet, despite getting his ass kicked, ooh my, deja vu, Nero is surprisingly calm. You see this quite a bit with combatants, I think. A sort of respect earned through combat. Dante and Virgil's rivalry stretches back to their childhoods. Their final clash atop the Clyphot in DMC5. You can see the excitement brewing between these two. And little Nero certainly follows suit. And when Dante allows him to keep the Yamato, despite the risks. Then there's the battle against the Savior when Dante rescues him. This is twice the man has done Nero a favor. The credit's certainly building up. And it is thanks to Dante's actions that he's in the position to save Kyrie in turn. Helping the boy save his girl, that would certainly put him onto a pedestal in most people's books. Even at the end of 4, as Dante leaves, there is little bravado left to flaunt. All Nero wonders is when they'll cross paths again. Up until now, through all of DMC4, we hadn't seen Nero really look up to anybody. He shares his earlier years with Kratos and Kyrie. While he clearly cared for him like an older brother, I never got the impression Nero admired or wanted to be on Kratos' level. With Dante, however, this is the first time we see someone Nero feels a desire to measure up to. A kindred spirit, perhaps. Although he expresses it in his own immature ways. I'm sure Dante is feeling plenty nostalgic from his own youth. Granted, not much has changed. Thank God for that. Fast forward to the events of DMC5. We see more of Nero's lingering admiration for Dante.
What am I doing wasting my time here? He's got this.
Given everything he'd seen from Dante, who could blame him? The man was virtually untouchable in the previous game, and the few times he does get hit, Dante shrugs them all off, as though getting pummeled and ran through with his own sword is the normie equivalent of your opponent getting one minor hit in. Good thing these guys can regenerate clothes. That outfit looks expensive. However, we all know how this initial battle with Urizen goes. Nero is visibly surprised to see Dante of all people get knocked out. Now, a reasonable mind will look at the situation and deem we're fucked and get everyone out of there while they can. Instead, Nero's hot-headedness gets the best of him, as it often does, and he opts to fight Urizen himself, missing an arm.
Hey, what could go wrong? Oh, shit.
Apart from his normal temperament, I can't help but think Nero was trying to measure up to Dante, at least in part. Who sees their hero or someone akin to that role get beaten so heavily and think they're going to do a better job? Sure, there's more going on here. Urizen took his arm, stole the Yamato, who wouldn't want payback? And in true fashion with the Sparda lineage, their stubbornness tends to get the better of them. None of these guys are the type to back down from a fight, even when the odds are clearly stacked against them. All that is true, but let's look at what happens after Nero gets his ass kicked. Again.
Hey, get Nero out of here! This is a bad move!
I can still fight!
Nero, go! You're just dead weight!
Back up!
Alright, we all know how Nero feels about that little jab. The phrase dead weight follows him the entire hot damn course of the game, and the internet is chocked full of memes to celebrate. This chip on Nero's shoulder is one of the last pieces of evidence of how much he looks up to Dante. He was just called useless, in front of an enemy he's got a personal grudge against. Beaten down twice, his arm and a Yamato stolen from him. Nero does recognize that it was the sword that allowed the realms to merge like this, bringing the Clyphot into the human world. There's no measure for the burden Nero's feeling throughout Devil May Cry 5. The guilt and the anger, all of which gets enhanced by Dante's criticism. And it's made only worse by the fact that it was never with the intent to cause harm. It wasn't to insult Nero, to demean or judge him for this fiasco getting out of hand, from the truth of whom Urizen truly was. And it was Dante trusting him to keep fighting, even if this was his last dance. I've rambled on a bit with the examples, but there's a major psychological factor at play here. It's made clear in Devil May Cry 4 that Nero doesn't put faith in Sparda or religion at all, and it's pointed out he doesn't get along well with the other members of the Order, presumably even Credo, based on moments like this. That doesn't leave Nero with many options. Those very few he keeps around would be considered invaluable to him. And by the time of DMC5, the two people whose opinions would mean the most to Nero would be Dante and Kyrie. Having such a small and tight-knit group and being scorned like this with no way to express yourself. Nero's anger, although meme-worthy, is very understandable, and it doesn't let up even when Nero finally meets his father.
What is this? Virgil.
I normally cover a character's background at the start of these videos, then work my way forwards, but I wanted to cover some of Nero's hangups first, then double back, as it helps explain a lot of what we're seeing. Unlike the twins, we don't have nearly as much information provided in the games to help establish Nero's history, who he is as a person. As mentioned, Nero never knew his mother. He was put up for adoption as an infant. With luck, he was adopted by a decent family right there in Fortuna, Credo and Curie's family. Despite having this stability, Nero still faced some uphill battles growing up. Many of the other children made fun of him, even calling his mother a prostitute.
That's rude.
Despite having a family to go home to, this must have been rough, having no idea where you came from, why they never wanted you, why you weren't good enough. This is a question I think everybody asks themselves at one point or another, when you don't get that job you wanted, or you fail to keep said job, when your crush rejects you, when all the girls reject you. Rejecting much? Shut it! It's not even the right game yet, douche. This isolation is a part of Nero, going all the way back to his early years, and it's followed him up to the present. The negative effects and the positive ones. By having Kyrie and Credo throughout his life, and especially his childhood, despite not knowing where he came from, the legacy Nero had inherited, this provided him with something Virgil never had: stability, comfort, people he could rely on, and make him feel safe and welcomed. This does give him something major in common with Dante, his mother's sacrifice. The event was ingrained into his very being, having somebody there to fight for him, to keep him safe. It's the very thing Virgil lacked, driving him to crave power in order to compensate. And Nero, benefiting from something similar, was able to avoid following a far darker path. While he's outwardly cold, the man doesn't hesitate to help when he sees somebody in trouble, leading up to Devil May Cry 5, where we see Virgil first attack him. Apparently, Kyrie often makes plenty of extra food to provide for the needy in their area. That also explains why Nero's guard is down in this scene. Normally, if somebody starts approaching you like this, silent, limping along, covered up, one's first instinct should be to kick him hard as you can, or in Nero's case, use that arm for what it's good for.
Nero, the food's getting
Trinity, get back inside now!
Let it be stated for the record, I firmly blame Kyrie for this. Like a cliché horror flick, she chose to walk in at the worst possible moment. Jokes aside, this supportive upbringing only strengthens Nero's parallels to his family. Even his devil powers awakening mirrors the two of them. Now, as much as I love Devil May Cry, I can't pretend it's a flawless series. 4 is especially guilty of this, being rushed and incomplete as it is. The special edition did not fix this, by the way. You see, a questionable part of Nero's background is exactly when he acquired the Devilbringer. Nobody in the Order of the Sword, and especially not Kyrie, were aware of it, and Nero could only keep his arm held up in a sling like this for so long, without drawing even more attention to himself. As is learned via some incident reports, there was a demon attack not long before the start of DMC4. Kyrie was reportedly injured and Nero's arm was wounded. Though she recovered, Nero's arm would not, and it would eventually mutate into the Devilbringer as we see in-game. I'm especially annoyed that this whole situation was corralled into a single instant from this cutscene with Argus.
My arm changed. What's it called? Power. Give me more power.
I think something like that deserved a little more than a blackout screen and a few reports you can happen across. Now, I don't mean to be a hater, I have given Devil May Cry praise for not embellishing events with lengthy cutscenes or obnoxious exposition. Sometimes, however, it can benefit the story to see what's actually going on with your own eyes. Something the developers evidently understood, given what happens next in this scene.
I become a demon. So be it. I'll endure the exile. Anything to protect you.
Tread lightly, Nero, your motivation is showing. This was such a badass scene. The obvious connection to Virgil was certainly an eye raiser. The demonic specter behind Nero is grossly similar to Virgil's Devil Trigger. Nero's words do give credence to the earlier attack when his arm first transformed. It's enough detail to put the pieces together anyways. It didn't full-on ruin the game nor the story, but it was frustrating given how little we knew for certain about Nero, at the time anyways. I mean, was he Dante's kid? Virgil's? Was he the offspring of Sparda, suggesting he had another fling somewhere with another woman? That would not speak well towards his character. There were a lot of theories and head-scratching going on when the game dropped back in 2008. It wouldn't be until well after DMC4's release that they would confirm that Virgil was Nero's father. It's as though the developers couldn't make up their minds about the situation. Oy vey. I know I've been making plenty of parallels with the Sparda twins, and yep, this thing fits right in with them too. mainly Virgil. He was the one who got left behind, who had no one there when his life was threatened. This event led to his demon powers awakening, the Yamato being summoned. For Nero, both instances where his life was threatened, at Agnes's lab and the earlier demon attack, demonstrate his life hanging by a thread, not unlike Virgil once was. It's a common element with the Sparda lineage that, when faced with death, their powers either awaken or amplify to give them a fighting chance. I assume this is the demon equivalent of their instinct kicking in, the body taking control to preserve itself. But unlike his father, there's another component at work here. When his Devilbringer awoke, Kyrie was involved. She was in danger. His desire to protect her, no matter what became of himself, played a heavy part in Nero's powers manifesting. This is where Nero's development diverges and becomes its own thing. Dante's and Virgil's development were focused around protecting themselves, first and foremost, an understandable burden given the targets they had being Sparda's children. With Nero, there was a specific desire beyond that, to protect someone else. It sounds simple and even a bit cheesy, but we've all seen how demonic power, when dedicated towards others rather than oneself, can allow a person to achieve feats of strength never seen before. Multiple examples hint towards this very virtue being the source of Sparda's true strength. It explains why those who covet his power tend to fail. It's not just the physical aspect, there's an emotional one too. The morality that guided Sparda to turn on his own kind. This is something Nero has inherited from his grandfather, and like any good character development, it follows through to Devil May Cry 5, where we see Nero's full potential realized.
Awesome, I'm like a fucking Jedi.
Everything on Nero's mind through the events of DMC5 seemed bent around two things: Dante calling him a deadweight, and Urizen for taking his arm and kickstarting this nightmare. So you can imagine the shock to his systems when Nero learns that this enemy, the enemy he's been pursuing, is his father, as well as V for that matter. Nero spent a great deal of time with V, helping him keep moving when his body was falling apart, realizing he had been palling around with the human half of his father while trying to kill his devil half. This situation no doubt messed up Nero's mind in ways I can't begin to comprehend. There's a lot to unpack all at once. That's why I find it appropriate then that of all the hardship Nero faces, the violence, the ass beatings, near-death experiences, it's here and now that he's speechless and virtually paralyzed. At this point in his life, I doubt Nero has given his parentage much thought, possessing not a single memory of either of them. Having that part of his history thrown in front of him like this, it could only add to the emotional whiplash. But we all know how stubborn the Sparda bloodline is. It wasn't long before Nero regained his senses and followed after them, while the entire Caliphate was shaking itself apart. Equally incredulous, he finds a working payphone amidst all this destruction so he can call an emotional event to Kyrie. I know we used to make stuff of much higher quality back in the day, but not even Dante is this durable. Also, there's no homeless guy sleeping in there. 0 points for realism.
Kyrie. When I was a kid, I was alone. You and Kratos were all I knew. And now all of a sudden I find out I have a family. What am I supposed to do with that?
Alright, there's several interesting things happening here, and basically all at once. Coming to terms with your father being responsible for the deaths of countless thousands, that would be a tough pill to swallow. Gaining the resolve to confront that horror, rather than run away, is a stalwart action to commit to. Also, we get more of Nero's feelings on Kratos, someone that was not overly utilized in DMC4. Considering their history, you'd think Nero would have had more to say about his death, after Kratos tried to save him and Kyrie too.
I couldn't protect Kratos. To this day, I hate myself for not having enough strength. But this time is different. I swear!
Now, this was great. It ties back into what we talked about with his Devilbringer awakening, how Nero's powers always seem to trigger whenever someone dear to him is in peril. It unfortunately wasn't enough to save Kratos, who was like a brother to him, and Nero doesn't want to fail like that again. He doesn't want to lose anybody else. Despite everything Virgil had done to him to Redgrave City, Nero is faced with an opportunity to change things for the better, and the results are quite extravagant.
This ends right here.
So, we've spoken in previous character videos about how epic this final clash was. Nero's Devilbringer possesses an angel-like appearance, contrasting heavily with the monstrous visage of the Sin Devilbringers. And I never get tired of the fact that this family turns every disagreement into a full-fledged battle. Not as though Virgil could ever back down from a challenge like this, of course. But it is amusing nonetheless. What we really need to talk about is what comes after.
Interesting. Oh, brother.
You cut off your own son's arm for more power, and you still lost.
I have seen a lot of videos from many content creators far more popular than I, all talking about this outcome. Every one of them comes down to the same question. Does this prove Nero is stronger than Virgil? I'll give my opinion here and now.
Absolutely not.
Nah, I call bullshit. Don't get me wrong, I have no desire to shortchange our boy for coming into his own, and in style too. It basically functions as therapy for these guys. But back to the point, Virgil and Dante had been pummeling each other before Nero turned up. You can already see some wear and tear on Virgil after their fight. And this is after Dante beat Urizen, V's familiars, and then fought Virgil. So you can imagine the afternoon he's had. All that. And I maintain, as discussed briefly in our Virgil video, there was likely a mental component holding Virgil back. Despite his cold demeanor, the man isn't completely heartless. And he has his pride. Something he'd lament being told, I think. But the idea of striking down your own son wouldn't sit well with a man like Virgil. And no doubt he carries V's memories too. So those would also likely hold him back. And let me be real with you guys, Virgil had to split himself, eat a demonic fruit to gain vast power, refuse to ascend to a new level. All that work getting bested by Nero because, well, that's cheap stuff, I'm not buying it. I know there's other explanations for Nero winning the fight. It's explained that their demon side feeding off their human blood plays a part in why Sparda's descendants are so powerful. The Qliphoth operates on that very principle. Their rampant healing abilities are included in this. So Nero having more human DNA could factor into his win. Then again, there's less devil blood to utilize it. It all gets complicated, and Virgil being a bit of a softie is a better jumping point for him turning a new leaf. It suits the narrative better, if nothing else. Now, after the family have settled matters, Dante and Virgil descend into the underworld to sever the Qliphoth before it causes more harm, leaving Nero behind, despite his best efforts.
Take care, Nero.
Adios.
This must have been another gut punch for Nero. He just found his real family, his father, his uncle. The slightest inklings of a bond were forming, just for them to disappear again, with only a promise to return one day. Though I suppose this might have been enough for him. Nero appears satisfied at the end, despite events playing out as they did. With his newfound identity and strength, he can look after things on Earth. And Nero has the utmost faith that his father and uncle can handle things on their own. The entirety of hell should be quivering with these two mucking around down there. Besides, we've seen for ourselves, time after time, Virgil always comes back.
Hold on to that until then.
Nero started out as this edgy, impetuous teen with no clue as to who he is or where he comes from. But he had a heart, and the courage to act on it. As time went on, even when he lost, got hurt, or failed those he was trying to save, the man kept getting up and hitting back. And through it all, he found everything he had been lacking. And like Dante, he never let the hardship turn him into something terrible. Something that could make the worst demons look meek by comparison. Nero has developed into someone fit to uphold the Sparda legacy. Best yet, Nero is an example of how you can avoid generational scars that ruin entire families. His backstory mirrors his uncles and fathers, but Nero was able to forge a different path entirely his own, with a family, a life, ensuring that the next generation of Sparda's descendants will have opportunities the previous ones never did. That being said, Nero, Kyrie, get to work. We need a Devil May Cry 6, plus supporting cast.
Hey, chicka bum bum.
Like, comment, and subscribe. This will be the last Devil May Cry project for a bit while I explore other franchises. More stuff is definitely in the works. I'll see you all again real soon. Till then,